Okay, so we got the distributor back in. That's all installed. We've got the side cover most of the way on. I did the preliminary adjustment for the valves. Now we need to finish putting the engine up together, and then we need to run it up to temperature, and then we need to do the final adjustment on the valves. When we do the final adjustment, I'll actually show you how to do the adjustment, but basically the adjuster is right here, and you use a gap checker to get it to the right gap. So this side cover here, now I dropped a lot of bolts from this side cover, dropping bolts multiple times, especially trying to get these little things here in that hold the pipe, hold the fuel, and this is the fuel line that holds the fuel line in place. Getting those in place and in is kind of a challenge, and so I kept dropping bolts, and I was doing a pretty good job at keeping track of them, but somehow along the way I lost one bolt. So I went to the hardware store and got a new one. And that's a skill that I highly recommend, is being able to go to the hardware store and pick up a replacement for any kind of bolt or nut. So it's pretty simple. So this is one of the original ones. It was in there. I took it out to bring to the hardware store, and in the hardware store they have a gauge, and you can use that to see what size the bolt is. This is 5/16, and you can also see that it's coarse thread, not fine thread. I believe it was 18 threads per inch. They have a thing there that you can screw the bolt into or screw a nut onto, and it tells you if it fits. It tells you that's the right size, and if it doesn't fit, it's not the right size, try another one. So then I was able to go in and go through their drawers. They're all organized by bolt size and thread type, and I was able to find a 5/16 coarse thread bolt. Unfortunately, the shortest bolt they had was a bit too long. Now I could cut this bolt down, but then I'd have to deal with the end of the threads. I'd have to go through and make sure that it would still thread through. So instead, I decided to grab a couple washers, and by using the washers, by using the two washers, I have now made this bolt the right length so that it can screw into there. And the last thing I needed was a lock washer. So this thing on the end that my nephew says looks like a saw blade is actually a type of lock washer. As you screw the bolt in and it tightens, this actually prevents the bolt from vibrating loose. And the hardware store that I went to, they didn't have this type of lock washer. They have what's called the split lock washer. Now the way this works is it's very loose around the bolt. See, it's very loose around the bolt right now, but as you screw the bolt in, those two sides come closer together, and that squeezes the entire bolt. And so again, it's a lock washer. It prevents it from vibrating loose. So we got a new one of those. So I'm going to put the lock washer on, and then my other washers, and then I'm going to install this bolt into there. And after that's done, the side cover will be officially installed. Then I will do the exhaust manifold next, then the spark plugs probably, and I think we'll call that good enough. Oh, and the valve cover. and then we'll call that good enough to start the engine, and we'll start it, get it up to temperature, and then turn it off, and then take the valve cover off so that we can adjust the valves again. Now, I got lucky and these washers are actually the right width to go in between here. But if these washers were wider and they hit on this raised section here, then I would probably need to grind the washers down on the sides to make sure that they fit flush against the side cover. So that's one thing to keep in mind if you're using washers, is that you want them to sit flush against, you want them to sit right against what you're trying to put them on. You don't want them to be raised up or at an odd angle or anything, because that messes with the bolt's ability to be tightened and to stay tight. Now already you can see this lock washer is starting to flatten out, and that means that it's engaging, and that's what we want. So now that all of these bolts are installed, this side cover is now on. And it's pretty easy to tell the difference between the one that I replaced and the other ones. But it's fine. It's functional, and that's what I care about.